graph of the sequence and the graph of a function. Well, we're going to end by looking at this story problem dealing with this plant. It's called the sneeze wart plant, and surprisingly enough, this is a real plant. It's not something taken out of Harry Potter. It is a real plant, and what it does is it starts out when it's growing as a single stem. After 2 months of growth, the stem sends off a shoot that becomes a new stem and produces a new shoot every month thereafter. The new shoots must mature for 2 months before they are strong enough to produce shoots of their own. Let f sub n be the number of stems in month n. The first 2 terms are equal to 1. Beginning with the third term, each term is found by adding the previous 2 terms. Now, it's pretty cool because math is found all over in nature, and this is just one example. This is where nature follows what's called the Fibonacci sequence. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. But the Fibonacci sequence follows this pattern, where the first 2 terms are equal to 1. So to write a recursive formula, the first term would be 1, and the second term would also be 1. Now to find the second term, each term is, or I'm sorry, not to find the second term, but to find the next term, each term is found by adding the previous 2 terms. Well, in our previous lesson with recursive formulas, we talked about the fact that we use sub n minus 1 to refer to the previous term. Well, if I want to refer to the term previous to that one, we would say sub n minus 2. So this means we're going to take the previous term plus the one before it. Now the key here is that you would use this formula for the third term on, or starting with the third term. That's what that piece represents. Because we already know the first term and the second term are both going to be 1. Okay, so now we want to find out what the first 10 terms are going to be. I guess this would be f sub n. Okay, we already know what the first term is. The first term is going to be 1, and the second term is going to be 1. So this is telling me that to find the next term in the sequence, you add the 2 previous terms together. So 1 plus 1 would be 2. So to find the fourth term, I would add the 2 previous ones, just the 2 previous ones. 1 plus 2 is 3. So to find the fifth term, we add the 2 previous terms. 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 plus 3 is 8. 8 plus 5 is 13. 13 plus 8 is 21. 21 plus 13 is 34. And 34 plus 21 is 55. Now when we go to graph this, it's going to look slightly different from our other graphs. But again, our first step is always the same. Figure out what our scale is going to be. So our x-axis, again, we have enough space here to count by 1s. On the y-axis, let's count by 5s. So we'll run off a little bit, but that'll be okay. So when x is 1, y is 1. Well, if we're counting by 5s, that makes that just on top of the line there. For the first 2 terms, the third term is going to be 2. The fourth term will be 3. The fifth term will be 5, so that's easy to graph. The sixth term is 8. The seventh term would be 13. So here's 10. 13 would be a little over halfway. 8 would be 21. 9 would be 34. And the 10th term of the sequence would be 55, which would be right up there. Again, this is a sequence that we're graphing, so do not connect the points with a line. So basically what we just talked about is that's a representation of a Fibonacci sequence. Just a little background information. You don't have to get this in your notes. You won't be tested on this, but I think it's important to know where some of the math is that we're talking about, where it comes from. And so a 12th century mathematician by the name of Leonardo of Pisa, he wrote under the name of Fibonacci, and he came up with this sequence. And this sequence, like I said earlier, is found all over in nature. In fact, there's a publication called the Fibonacci Quarterly. Maybe you've heard of it. Probably not. That's devoted to the mathematics that we get from the Fibonacci, or where we could find the Fibonacci sequence used around us. So again, this is about how to, this lesson was all about how to graph a sequence. The key for this lesson can be summed up right here. When we graph a sequence, don't connect the points. So good luck on your assignment.